I'm sitting on a log to do a vlog. That's my intro. All right, so I'm doing this video in one take. This is not rehearsed. I don't have a script. This is off the top of my head, so it's probably going to be all over the place a little bit. So if you're listening, just bear with me. I'm not a professional speaker or anything like that. Just a guy speaking off the top of my head. So someone I watch on YouTube had made the accurate point that there's a lot of hype around gym culture and around motivational videos, especially, and that workout motivational videos, they really overhype it and they make it seem like it's a movie trailer. The guy goes in and there's dramatic music and he lifts and he yells and people cheer or something, and he's got maybe some kind of backstory about how no one believed in him and his maybe what would you call it, traumatic upbringing or something like that, and he's going to overcome it with the gym. And that realistically, all you're doing is going to a building and moving some weight around, and that all of that hype is kind of overdone and they really oversell it. And that's true. And I think that in order to be effective, I guess, not that I'm a professional weightlifter. I mean, I do go to the gym and stuff. But I think that you do need a kind of realistic outlook and not one that's based off of, some dramatic thing. That being said, I think that, I guess, utilizing an imaginary, fictitious narrative, like in your head, to kind of give yourself your own motivational driving force out of whole cloth that you've created yourself, and you can derive this from fictional narratives, including, modern works of fiction like movies and video games and that kind of stuff. Or even, I guess, like people talk about like the Iliad and Homer, or Greek myths and like Hercules and heroic feats of strength, or the Battle of Troy and Achilles, and people kind of hold these concepts, these characters and these archetypes, they hold them sort of in their mind, and I guess, as corny as it sounds, in their heart, and take that with them in the gym, and that kind of helps them pump out the extra rep. And that all sounds so great, but at the end of the day, really, it gets back to what all you're doing is driving to a building, moving some weight. It's not that great. It's not that epic. It's kind of ordinary. It's kind of boring. It's kind of dull, and that kind of thing. So I guess like an analogy I could use. I think I even have one on me. Hold on a second. No. All right. You know what a battery looks like anyway. So this is a battery. It's got a positive and a negative charge, and these things are opposites. They're in opposition to one another. They are incongruent, they're at odds, they don't get along, but that's why there is polarity, and that's why there's energy, it's why there's charge, it's how a battery works, that's what makes the thing work, the electronics work. So I guess in this analogy, the kind of concrete, strict realism view would be the one where it's like listen, pal, get real. You're not flipping Batman. You're not, I don't know, G.I. Joe, whatever. You're not Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Get a grip. You're just lifting weights. It's all it is. It's as limited as that. But I think if that's all you have, it's going to get boring. It's going to get kind of lackluster and dull. And I think that if you only maintain that point of view, strictly speaking, the workouts will kind of get dull. And then the positive charge in the battery, in accordance with this analogy, would be the fantastical, imaginative element where you are kind of fighting against the forces of entropy and sloth and you're kind of imposing your will upon yourself out of discipline, and you're improving yourself, you know, when you don't even have to. Like, from speaking for myself, like I don't have to be strong or fit to do my job or live my life. There's no necessity for it. I can be fat and lazy and smoke and drink and get along just fine, but I choose not to, because, you know, those things will reduce a person into a very kind of wretched condition that I don't want to live under. So, in a very symbolic sense, it is a kind of fight against the forces of evil. As I mean, that sounds really cheesy, right? So, but in the purely symbolic sense, there's a guy coming. He's gonna think I'm weird talking to myself. That's okay. He's coming down to fish. He's got a fishing basket and a fishing rod. Anyway, getting back to the point there, the battery analogy. Right. So, but obviously the pitfall to that, to only having the positive charge of the battery, to only having the imaginative element of this is, you know, there's no realism. It's all in your head. It's all imagination. It's all fantasy. It's all a person kind of watching too much TV shows, watching too much anime, reading too many comics, and probably not doing enough at the gym, because most of their gains and most of their progress is in their head, you know. They kind of have one foot in the fantasy world, one foot in the real world. They're not taking it seriously enough, because I find that the people who do take it seriously, you know, it boils down to it's just work. It's just work. You just go into a building and you're just putting in the work, and it's kind of dull and it's ordinary. But I think that you still need, well, no, you don't need it, but you ought to draw on a kind of more of a imagination aspect. Okay, so for instance, I'll use David Goggins as an example. The guy runs around, he lifts his weights, and he shouts out, "They don't know me, son," and he shouts about the boats and the logs. "I'm going to lift the boats and the logs," right? And everyone gets a kick out of it. But what's he doing? You know, he's a guy who's in shape. He takes his weightlifting seriously. So why is he shouting about boats and logs? Because I think, well, it's the Marines. I think he spoke on this in an interview, because in the Marines, they make you lift boats and they make you carry logs for like strength and endurance training. So I think he was drawing on that experience to give himself like that pump, right? But even that, to give yourself a pump, like what the hell is that? To get yourself psyched up? Like psyched up, the word psych, like psychology, like in your psyche, like what the hell is that? Your soul, right? To yell and scream and to kind of build yourself up into a trance. Like what the hell is a trance, right? It's a state of mind where you're on some kind of bizarre autopilot and you have like adrenaline, even though the situation doesn't call for it. So there's some kind of, oh God, I don't want to use this word. There's some kind of a magical element to it. That's the wrong word to use. You know, you can think of a better word to use and put it in the comment section. That's up to you. But anyway, yeah, he talks about the boats and the logs, and you know, he's probably thinking about like saving people from like a flood or something. You know, he's gonna lift the boats and carry the logs and plug the dam and bring the people to safety, because he's the Marine and he's gonna do that. And he probably thinks about, I don't know, I've never talked to the man himself, but I would imagine that he's drawing on that imaginary situation to promote a better workout. And I think I've heard it said before that they've done studies where people who envision self-defense and combat scenarios during a workout perform better, for obvious reasons, right? Because you're thinking of fighting people. I'm not condoning like fighting and bullshit, but you know, you can do that, and it'll give you a better pump. So like, I guess my point is like, why the hell not like if you're kind of a shut-in nerd type and you'll watch a lot of comic books and anime and bullshit, you can, like, instead of just escaping, using that as an escape into fiction, into like a kind of a comfort zone out of the kind of crap of your everyday life and into this kind of other world. Instead of doing that, you can be deriving and extrapolating. There's a word I'll never use outside of a YouTube video: extrapolate. Why would I ever use that word in real life? You could be extrapolating meaning and a kind of symbolic archetype from your preferred source of fiction, even if it's like flipping anime or something like that, and taking what it is about your characters that make them strong, that make them capable, that make them overcome their difficulties, and just apply it to either your own life in terms of action or your own life in terms of conduct. Right? But getting back to the battery analogy, it's going to translate to something that's just work. It's going to be ordinary. It's going to be very plain, very bland. It's going to be kind of boring. It's not going to be exciting. It's not going to look like a TV show at all. Right? So if you're running around the gym pretending you're effing Goku or something, don't do that. Please stop. Be more considerate of the gym goers. You're probably going to feel very silly afterwards. Something like that. There's more people coming. They probably think I'm crazy too, but that's okay. All right, hold on. I'm going to shut off the video until they pass so that, just to be courteous. All right, I'll be back. All right, I'm back. So I guess just to recap, we're using like a battery as an analogy. We're talking about drawing on imagination and fantasy to improve real life scenarios, and that if you hold a strictly realistic perspective, you might become bored, disenchanted, and disenfranchised with just real everyday life. So to avoid that, you can always draw upon archetypes found in fiction, and that you are not limited to the classics. You're not limited to the Greek myths and the Iliad and Homer's Odyssey. Is that the same thing? The Iliad and Homer's Odyssey? I don't know. No, they're two separate things, right? Whatever. And that you can use modern movies and stuff like that. But if you're just using those things as a comfortable escape, then you're being kind of a bum, and that you should be, and I would argue have the responsibility to be extracting meaning and interpreting that meaning in such a way that you can integrate that into your own life to improve your character, right? That's the big old recap before those fisherman people interrupt my video. Not that I'm mad at them, it's not my woods. But I wanted to touch on something, an idea that Jordan Peterson, I guess a lot of people don't like. So if you don't like him, whatever, bear with me. I'm not here to talk about if you should like him or not. A broken clock is right twice a day, okay? So just don't give me a hard time, or give me a hard time. I don't care. Go ahead. I don't give a hoot. But the idea that Jordan Peterson talks about the Dragon Slayer mythos, and that everyday mundane problems as being snakes, and when they kind of escalate to bigger problems because they've been overlooked and not resolved adequately, now it's a dragon. Now, in symbolism, a dragon is a snake, but it just has wings. So what do wings symbolize? Mobility. Now it can go anywhere. It has access to anywhere. So you can't escape from it. It follows you wherever you go. Whereas before, as a snake, it just kind of hides in the nooks and crannies for you to kind of solve it, right? That's, I think so at least, what wings symbolize. So we're going to use a very low stakes example here. Sink full of dirty dishes. That is a snake, right? It stinks, it's gross, it's smelling up the apartment. You want to do it, but maybe you feel the need to put it off. Or your house, if you live in a house. You don't feel like doing it, but you should do it. Oftentimes, I think that a sink full of dirty dishes looks worse than... It looks like a bigger pain to deal with than what it actually is. Sometimes I look at the dishes, I'm like, ah, man, I don't want to do that. But while I'm doing them, I'm like, oh, why did I feel like I didn't feel like doing this? This is so easy. I feel that way about getting out of bed in the morning too. Like, it's like, oh, that first like hump to clear when I'm groggy, tired, and getting up, it's like tough. But like once I'm up and moving, I guess it's fine. But I'm getting off topic. But so a sink full of dirty dishes can be symbolized as a snake, whereas a habit of uncleanliness, see, now that's symbolized as a dragon, because now it's a bad habit that has imbued itself into your conduct, into your life, into your soul, your heart, your mind, whatever you want to say. And now that has a plethora of other problems. You have a bad habit of uncleanliness. You don't take out the garbage, you don't do the dishes. It attracts pests, bugs, rats. They spread disease. Then you get sick, you get evicted, you can't get rid of them. Maybe you get fined for inviting the pests to begin with. It's like it creates it ruins your life, when all it started with was just do the damn dishes, right? That's what's a snake is a beer commercial. Okay, that's a lie. A beer commercial is a snake, because it's like, okay, look how cool. Look at these good-looking people drinking beer, and they're at a party, and they're in the pool, and they're laughing and splashing around and stuff. A whiskey commercial. I hate whiskey commercials. The people are always like dressed in suits and blazers and stuff, and it makes it look classy. Like, oh, this whiskey, I can taste the oak. You know who whiskey connoisseurs are? Like geeks, like weirdo aficionado nerds who look like George R.R. Martin or something like that. They look like weird shut-ins with pale skin, and they're like, I love whiskey. And on the commercial, it's like some like handsome man with like a fresh haircut and a suit, and he's like, oh. And they always use brown as the color scheme. I hate whiskey commercials. They make me mad. They're making me mad now thinking about it. All right, so that's a snake, because it's a lie. And you know what's a dragon is a drinking habit. So go look at the people who drink whiskey habitually. Big, plump, out of breath. It's a wretched condition. It's a wretched way to live, is to be an alcoholic, and that's no joke. So anyway, it's like that, right? It's and that's all like symbolism and fantasy. But if you shift perspective in such a way that you're struggling to kind of get on top of your turmoil, your problems, whatever they happen to be, and you get that perspective shift of like, oh, like these are actually like little evil aspects popping up in my life that I have the capacity to deal with and fix, and I can prevent them from growing into bigger problems later on, which not only helps me, it helps other people. So doing the dishes in a symbolic way is actually a heroic act. And that sounds corny, but like if you look at it the correct way, it's true. And who the hell cares as long as the dishes get done? Right? It doesn't mean you should go running around in armor, being a weirdo with a sword or something like that. But I think that it is the correct way of looking at things. Is that, like things matter. It's not inconsequential. It's not, don't let futility kind of creep in and speak for you and say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just dishes, or it's just you're just a speck in a big world or something dumb like that. Because these things do matter. There's actually a movie. I was gonna make a video about this later, but we're on the topic of the Dragon Slayer mythos. There's a movie that Ryan Gosling directed. It's called, I think it's called Lost River. It's about these two people, a mom and her son, I think her teenage son, and they're struggling financially in this kind of dilapidated home, trying to move out. And he's trying to go around the town collecting copper cable from abandoned houses to sell them to a local construction crew to get the money to move out. And this kind of local gangster type is, that's how he makes his money. So now he's targeted this kid, right? There's a lot going on in the movie, but the point being, right, is that near the end, spoiler alert, by the way, but near the end, the kid gets on a boat rows out to sea, and he's fixated and kind of obsessed with this. See, the town's been flooded, so under the water there's this statue, and it's kind of like this weird monster-looking thing. I think it's like a dragon head or a demon head or something. But he can't get this thing out of his mind. He like dreams about it and stuff. And one day he kind of plucks up his courage and gets on his boat with his flashlight. And he dives down there with a saw, and he saws off the thing's head, puts it up in the boat, and brings it back. Shortly after that, this kind of gangster character attacks him. He defends himself successfully. He ends up taking out the gangster who's been terrorizing him and his family throughout the movie, right? So he kills this monster, but he goes underwater. So anything... I would say oftentimes underwater in movies in terms of symbolism is in your psyche, in your mind, right? So in the world of the subconscious, it's underwater, right? So he resolves his internal struggle first and foremost, I guess, finds his courage, right? And that gives him the kind of wherewithal to stand up for himself and to be victorious in a real-life violent confrontation with a dangerous person. But the point that I wanted to really make here is that had a rippling effect outwards, because his mom was being attacked by her creepy boss. It's a really weird kind of a scene, but he's trying to kind of force himself on her, and she's terrified and she's isolated, and he's kind of got her in a bad spot, but she's able to pull a knife out of her. She's got like a holster or something in her blouse, but she takes her pocket knife out and she slashes him at the last second. He's like, ah, and she gets him. And so she kills like the monster too in her life. And it started with the son killing this monster symbolically. And then that had an outward effect for the in the lives of the people he loves and cares about. And I don't know, so can you, I guess is my point. So that if you conquer the things that are, even the small things that are kind of building up that you've been putting off, say like a bad habit of leaving stuff with the dishes, uncleanliness, sloth, just general bumminess, whatever it happens to be, a bad habit, a drinking habit, a drug habit, whatever, a bad temperament. If you conquer these things and overcome them through exertion of will and discipline and disciplining yourself, that will also have a rippling effect outwards in the people near you, your nearest and dearest, and they too will find the kind of mental fortitude to improve themselves as well and to conquer the things that are holding them back. So, like, point being, like, futility, don't let that creep in. Like, it matters. Like, your little victories, your small, like, things like that, they matter. They are impactful, right? And you can look at fictional narratives, movies and stuff like that as inspiration to help you overcome these difficulties, and that's kind of what this channel is all about. I don't know why I said it's happy sumo either. I kind of picked that just off the cuff. But anyway, if you watch this video, I guess that's all I got. If I come up with something else, I'll put it in a future video. All right, so that's all I got. If you watched, thanks for watching. Yeah, end of transmission.